recently we put a poll up and we said, for official use in an upcoming video, what do you think the most powerful form of bending is?
Oh.
I will say that 284,000 people voted in this poll. We have the big four: water bending, earth bending, fire bending, air bending. And then we also have this fifth option: I believe the elements are completely and irrefutably balanced.
Yeah,
Cool. Sure.
Bravo.
Boo! No talking!
Don't boo at him.
That's our poll. I'm going to reveal the answer to that, what the fandom, our fandom, said. But Kendall, I think I want to go to you first on this one.
Sure.
How do we frame this debate? What does power mean in the context of most powerful form of bending?
Yo, that is an excellent question. I mean, I think there's so many different categories and subcategories when we define power. I mean, we have versatility. There's so many different subsets of these main bendings. You know, for water, you have blood bending, which I'll get to later, but is the most powerful form of bending out there. You also have swamp bending with water. For air, you have flying, you have spiritual projection. For earth, you have, we have lava and metal. So the versatility, I think, is what's really big. How it does in a fight, I think, define power offensively versus defensively.
So I think framing the debate of what power means is an important thing to figure out. I also think it's important to figure out in what context, right? So is it in the Atla world we're talking power, or is it like 2020? Because like if I can metal bend my phone into a bigger phone or blow up your phone, that's like a big deal, I think. So how should we contextualize power in what era?
When you think about like what you just said, like metal bending, as we see in Korra, like the advancement there, like you become whatever bending subsect you're part of is more valuable depending on the era you're living in. Like obviously the cave people in the Avatar universe, firebenders were probably a lot more useful back in that time. But then we're thinking about just in terms of like power in general. Toph has this moment in, I think it's the Firebending Masters, where she's discussing like the origins of where all the bending, the bendings come from, and how she describes like earthbending as like how you interact with the world.
For them, the original earthbenders, it wasn't just about fighting. It was their way of interacting with the world.
And as opposed to like thinking of it in terms of like offense, defense, like how you can use it in a war setting, like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, I really appreciate thinking of it in terms of how you interact with the world.
Now I'm just going to say, what's the most powerful form of bending?
I think we all know where I stand on this. It's water.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
I thought I'd come in as like a minority talking about water being the most powerful.
Welcome to the majority.
Ah!
Ha! That's from the Water Tribe!
But yeah, I appreciate there's so much you can do. There's a moment where, I mean, Katara bends soup into Appa's mouth. So, I mean, if I don't have to use like a utensil, I have to do dishes.
That's big.
She bent the water off the maps. She, like, when Momo messed up that water bubble when they were in the desert, she said, guys, time out. I got this. It just went like it.
And Sokka's freaking out.
Sokka's
coming
freaking
off
out.
that
Like
bad
when they were
trip.
stuck in the wooden cage, and she said, I'm gross. Like, I was like, I'm gross. She said,
She's like, easy with the
Slice,
slice.
slice.
Katara, she's glistening.
just for the record, when she went like this and all that water shot out, that was kind of gross.
Really? I was like, relatable.
Katara, you're a genius! A sweaty, stinking genius!
And then with that, again, with water bending, we have our most powerful subsection, blood bending in the house, okay? Blood bending, the only illegal type of bending, the most lethal. You're puppet mastering people. It's wild.
My personal opinion, blood bending and healing are kind of operating on two sides of the same coin.
Right.
Because both of which are literally dealing with the human body. There is the physical aspects of the human body, which is impacted by blood bending, and the spiritual energy-based part of the human body, which is operated by healing. And really, Amon is doing the most negative of the two, because he's like, okay, I'm traveling through your blood. I'm gonna find the individual like channels of where,
like in your chakras, maybe like your pools of energy. Shut it off. Shut it off. Shut it off.
if I can block the conduit, I can block the energy.
Why don't we take a look at the results of this poll? I believe the elements are completely and irrefutably balanced with 45% of the vote.
Oh.
I'm there.
Somehow, that's not so surprising.
Okay, so Jordan, how are the elements balanced?
There's times where all of the elements seem to kind of be borrowing from one another. Like you have the airbending where Aang, it said, I think in Avatar Extras, they might mention it at one point in the series, that he's able to like regulate his body temperature, just like with his breath. And then you see that the firebenders can do that too. Like they're able to regulate their body temperature with breath several times in the series. And then the same thing with like being able to redirect lightning. Like you're using the balance of the four elements. Yeah, you're using a waterbending technique to redirect lightning. These aren't these rigid, like this construct with the bending disciplines that they can all balance each other and they're all borrowing from each other. And we see, because air gets pretty much wiped off the planet, that the world gets thrown into chaos.
It is important to draw wisdom from many different places. If we take it from only one place, it becomes rigid and stale. Understanding others, the other elements, and the other nations will help you become whole.
I also want to say, Jordan, I don't know if you remember in the episode where Hama is introduced, the puppet master, there's a moment between the fight between Katara and Hama where Hama is actually scared for her life, because usually in a fight between waterbenders, they're just pushing and pulling the water. And I'm just piggybacking off of what you're saying, because you said that all the elements borrow from each other. The reason why Hama got terrified of Katara in a moment is where, like, usually she threw a water blast at her, I believe, and usually a regular waterbending master would push and pull the water and redirect it to Hama, right?
Yeah.
But instead, Katara held her ground like an earthbender and slapped that water, and it sprayed everywhere.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys remember that. And Hama's face was just like, so that's also really cool to see.
Yeah.
Yes. Or we can even talk about like just how Jordan had made mention about Breath of Fire that firebenders use as emulative of an airbending technique. We see Zuko implementing airbending techniques with firebending all the time.
All the time.
One, his b-boy breakdancing style that he has yet to be defeated by.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then also his use of tools, because we see all the air nomads are using their staffs. Avatar Kyoshi's using her fans, that amplifies their airbending. But we see Zuko busting out these broadswords and just going in with a whole lot of fire like it's second nature.
When we just look at the elements just individually too, like, again, lots of these elements can be used and broken down in different types of states of matter and forms too, that then require possibly different techniques. You know, we have water, which again is the most powerful for me. We have, of course, liquid, solid, and gas. When we're dealing with like earthbending, for example, we have liquid metal that requires probably different forms and techniques, maybe derived from waterbending itself. We have lava, and we have also the solid and purified metal in earth too. So it is, I agree, a whole just a combination of using all these different techniques and methods to be able to also perfect different subsets as well.
That's a good segue, because I want to take a look at this poll now, and we see that in last place on this poll with 9% of the vote is firebending. So it begs the question, what's the weakest form of bending?
Firebending.
Oh, why am I so bad at being good?
Mainly offensive, lacks the mobility that airbending has too. It's very jab, quick movement, and spontaneous movement type of bending and type of, just flow of how firebending does. But it's very offensive. I don't think you can do too much defensively with firebending. And it just, lacks the mobility that lots of the other elements have. Bam.
I don't know, firebending, you get this moment with Zhang Zhang, and Azula does it too. They do this, like, crazy, like, the fire vanish thing that never gets addressed. All of a sudden, it's just like, oh, they can use fire to disappear? What?
When the boat got blown up by the pirates, right? And Zuko was just out there on the top of the boat, and then all of a sudden, he saw the explosion. When the explosion happened, he just didn't, like, brace himself. No, he actually surrounded himself in a ball of fire.
Fireball.
Very true.
Yeah.
Before he was exited out of the boat, which actually was saving. Which, when we think about it, is very, very akin to what Aang did that kicked off everything else the rest of the series with the iceberg. What he did again in the storm, and then what he subsequently did when he surrounded himself in that rock ball when fighting Ozai. That's one form of defensive firebending we see. We also see the break his roots that we hear about a lot whenever Zuko was fighting.
Yeah.
A lot of that goes towards what happened with the understanding of firebending throughout the course of Fire Nation history. Because originally, every firebender knew, I gotta learn from the dragons, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And even when we're watching the Firebending Masters, we're literally seeing flows and pushes and sweeps and everything else from firebending. Until Sozin takes over and hits everybody with that propaganda. Then from that point, it's just here.
It's all about
and that's all
power.
that it is.
I mean, it's a perfect time for us to talk about our Sozin's comment for the day, where we take one comment from the YouTube channel and we talk about it here on the show.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's the comment that I want want to talk about from Max Arbach. It says, in Aang and Korra's time, airbending has been almost unseen for so long that many people don't know how to defend against it. So what do we think about that?
100%, Max. I mean, we see it literally with Toph. She's like, where did he go? Like, Toph can literally defeat anybody, right? On the ground. And that's why I'm saying earthbending could be number 3.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dominique, on that. And also, like, people really like to ding airbending for it being like, you know, evade and maneuver type of thing. And
typical airbender tactic. Avoid and evade. I'd hope the Avatar would be less predictable.
Ding it for offensive-wise and offensively as well, but it's so strong offensively. And it's air. You can't see it. You can't see it. And especially...
That's what I was about to say.
They animate it.
Like, they animate it so we can see it. But for real, the only times which I think people can actually see the air moving without there being like a dust or a fan or a leaf or anything else like that is really just, is probably like when Aang was on the scooter. And when he did that like cyclone thingy when they were on that Fire Nation like island thing. But when you think about it, your best defense is always going to depend upon what you can and cannot see. And all of a sudden, Aang just be busting out air out of nowhere, and folks be like, "Yo, bro, what happened?"
Goku's like, "Oh crap, okay," like just random blasts.
One, I think, thing that's often overlooked with airbending is what Zahir is able to accomplish, since we're talking about it, and his ability to master flight, which we don't see much else of in the series, but you see how oftentimes firebenders can kind of do this like jetpack style propulsion thing. You've got waterbenders can kind of like go on this like kind of fantastic voyage.
Toph just catapults people.
Yeah, she just launches around.
But Toph also got her Earth skates. She got her Earth skates because she was just going through the whole countryside.
Of the Earth skates, yes.
It sounds like a lot of waterbending's strength is somewhat, if I'm hearing the room correctly, hinges a lot on the ability to bloodbend and heal, which I think not all waterbenders can do that, and it's limited to a certain time of the month. So if you kind of ignore bloodbending, does waterbending still rank first?
It still does for me, yes, and because most waterbenders can still do all the 3 forms, you know, you see Katara with her, and most can do the ice breath, you can do water, you can harden it, like, it's still very, very versatile without that subsection too, and
And a standard bender can do it.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with you, but however, we have to consider, like, if we're not considering bloodbending and we're just considering waterbending, of course, you know, I go hard for water, love water, but what if an airbender just decides, you know what, I'm tired of them fighting me. Let me just take their air out of their lungs. What are you gonna do?
How difficult do you think it would be to identify like where the wind is in a person? Is that like a similar thing?
I think you just feel it like with water. I think you can just, like, you don't need to see water to be able to bend it, or airbenders really can't see air, so.
This is a question that's similar to most powerful form of bending, but a little different. Aside from the avatars, who is the most powerful bender per bending style? So why don't we just start with air bending? Who's the most powerful airbender?
We gotta go with my boy Gyatso. Southern Air Temple, you walk in, you see the skeleton, the very well-preserved skeleton of Gyatso, surrounded by hordes of firebenders. So we can assume Gyatso took them to town. Am I right?
Let's talk about it, Jordan. Let's talk about it.
Okay, Dominic, let's go.
Because we're on the same wavelength here. Okay, so when we see, we don't understand how dark airbending is. So when we see Gyatso perfectly preserved, like, I mean, other than the wilted clothes from obviously the time and everything, there was no burn marks, there was no nothing, peaceful in the corner, just dead, right? Mm-hmm. All the firebenders surrounded by him, like tons of firebenders, not even reaching him. I think, Jordan, tell me if you're like on the same wavelength with me here. There's a dark, high-level airbending technique, which we really don't understand how devastating airbending is, where I think he took out all of the air out of the room.
Yes.
And suffocated everybody, including himself, sacrificing himself.
No, you all are convincing me, because my first thoughts or Tenzin and or Jinora, and I have a point for Jinora in a second. But also we gotta think about, that's actually a very, very dope theory, and I love that, and I want to put that in my canon now. But also, you know, we already know Monk Gyatso, and like you already know there, like, who knows at the time, like we first see the sucking of air in Korra with Zahir, because he's not based, as we said, in those air nomadic roots and like the spiritual life of Airbender. I don't know if Gyatso, especially way back in the day at that time, is over here taken out and like killing and suffocating a whole room, though, just based off their upbringing, what their, you know, lifestyle is as well, too.
We're gonna do a second Sozin's comment here today, because it was just, we just walked right into this one. This is from Madara989. If airbenders weren't so peaceful and happy, the war wouldn't have taken 100 years.
Madara, agree, 100%.
Yeah, you see? And that's what, that also, again, brings me to, like, again, back in the day, they probably weren't, Gyatso was, like, the symbol of, like, peace and, like, let's, like, this very, you already know, like, he's very just, like, you know, he's, like, the classic airbender, like,
I don't, Gyatso's pretty mischievous. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he is mischievous and, like, playful and different things like that, but that's it.
Is there any argument for Toph not being the strongest earthbender known to man? Is there anyone else do we need to just move on next, right?
Suyin.
Yeah, let's move on.
No.
Suyin.
We're good. We're good.
Suyin.
I was gonna say, I would...
Nope, stop.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hard body.
No,
Hard
no,
body.
no.
I said it. I said it and I meant it. I said it and I meant it.
It's another one of her tricks.
There's a giant hole in the box. How is that a trick?
It's not. It's the real deal. I am the greatest earthbender in the world. Don't you two dunderheads ever forget it.
All right, I think there's some good arguments across the board for Earth, but what if we move on to fire? Who is the strongest firebender we've been shown in this show?
I'm giving it to Zuko.
I'm giving it to Azula.
Oh no, Azula over Zuko all day, baby. Azula over Zuko all day.
Zuko was a match for her at his best, at her worst.
Yeah, at her worst. Yep, exactly. Azula, my girl's fire is blue, #1, too. She uses.
She was having a full blown mental breakdown.
Yes.
Iroh is the best firebender of all time.
Yeah.
I can get jiggy with it.
I literally love Iroh. I literally love him so much. He is my dog for life. And I do think he is also extremely powerful, but I don't know. I think it's between Azula and Iroh.
It seems like we have a couple contenders for firebending that I'm curious what the comment section will say if we're narrowing it down between these, basically the Zuko, Azula, Iroh family. But let's spend a little bit of time.
There's going to be a lot of Jung stands.
Listen, come forward. We want to see you. But let's talk waterbending, because all of you guys came out of the gate saying waterbending is the most powerful. So who is the most powerful waterbender?
Katara.
All right, that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next week.
I love Katara.
Thanks, guys.
Ta-dum!
We already know all the facets we've talked about with waterbending. Katara's got it.
All right, we have been debating a lot here, and we've kind of gotten some answers. Some things are unanswerable, but one thing we want to do is a section we call Flameo Hotman, where we're going to go around the room and just kind of give our hottest takes. Jordan, let's start with you. Hot takes.
Hot take. Hama is responsible for the death of Kaya. Hear me out. So, all of the Southern Water Tribe waterbenders have been captured. They know that they're gone. So the only obvious solution is once Hama breaks free from jail with bloodbending, she pieces out. Obviously, she's going to go back home, right? And so the Southern Raiders arrive to the Southern Water Tribe to get revenge on Hama, to get her back. They don't know what Hama looks like. There's not photography going around. So all they know is that they're out for blood for the one waterbender that's left in the Southern Water Tribe. Kaya says it's her. Boom. Hama responsible for Kaya's death.
All right, let's leave that one there and let the internet handle it. Kendall, I want to hear from you.
All right, so I guess one of my hot takes, and we were talking about it earlier too, about just how Sozin, wiped out the whole the whole Air Nation. and just how, was it a full genocide? Airbenders are nomadic, so there had to be, of course, some airbenders not there on the day, and that brings me to, we have maybe some of our present Avatar characters descendant of air nomads, and my top one is going to be our girl Ty Lee with it as a descendant of air nomads. We see it. She's in the Fire Nation. We just look physically. She has gray eyes. Who else got gray eyes? My boy Egg. All the other Fire Nation folks got green eyes and black hair. She got her brown hair, and she's got her gray eyes going on. Just the way that she moves is, you know, with her gymnastics and all that stuff is airbender-like. The way she does chi blocking and stuff, how that's learned. We also get confirmed in comics like Relics and things like that, again, Sozin did not knock out all the airbenders. He used Relics to lure people into caves and the Fire Nation and all that. So air nomads, they're traveling. They're not... So there has to be folks who are descendant of these air nomads out in the world, and we saw in Avatar, and that's Ty Lee, my girl.
She is 100% that girl. She is 100% that girl. She is.
Come on, let's get out of here.
Well, Dominique, would you like to piggyback off of that hot take, or do you have a new one you want to throw our way?
I have a new one, and it's been a question that I've been asking myself since I watched the show. Maybe you guys can answer it for me. So, in the Siege of the North, why did the waterbenders stop fighting when the moon showed up? Just because the Fire Nation just stopped fighting? This was your time to take advantage of getting those ships, getting the fleets out. Like, I mean, come on, why stop? Because they stopped. They came to your territory to do damage, defend. So I don't know why they stopped. I thought it was stupid. I thought they should have threw hands. Yeah, so I don't know why they just stopped fighting when the moon was at its most powerful. What did they do? It's just like, okay, well, I guess they stopped. I guess we'll wait.
Well, that brings us to Demarius to kind of close us out with our Flameo Hotmans. What do you got?
My hot take is that Aang made the complete and total right decision in not killing Fire Lord Ozai in that moment. The complete and total right decision to not kill Fire Lord Ozai.
100%.
Period.
I agree. I've seen people saying that he should have killed him, but I totally don't agree.
Neither do I, because if you think about it, Avatar Kyoshi, though she didn't do it, took credit for somebody's death all the way together. And what did that cause? No change to world peace anyways. All she did was end up creating a police system that ended up going corrupt across the entire Earth Kingdom. I said it. I meant it. I said it. Then he got Roku. Roku was like, nah, I'm not going to kill my friend today.
I'm gonna just leave it to the next Avatar to deal with that because I can't.
Right. But that was more so because of the fact that Roku shouldn't have fought that volcano. But we're gonna leave that one alone altogether.
100%. Why are you fighting the volcano? Just leave. Just leave.
All right, I mean, we're going to do a Roku episode after this now. There is clearly a lot to unpack with him, too. Some poor decision-making.
Oh, Roku's my favorite Avatar, so I'm here.
Well, we've talked about a lot of stuff today. I think we have a few opinions that we've kind of narrowed in on, but I think largely it is an open-ended question, a lot of these things we discussed. But I think we had a great debate, a great discussion. I want to thank you all for being here and participating in this. We like to end each show with a little bit of Uncle Iroh's wisdom that you can take with you for the week. We're going to leave you from the vine, which is the pun that I'm going to that's the hill I'm dying on. So our quote for this week, our Uncle Iroh's wisdom is, while it is always best to believe in oneself, a little help from others can be a great blessing. And what an appropriate quote for today. I thank you all for being here and offering your voices to this discussion. It was so much fun. Kendall, Demarius, Jordan, Dominique, thank you. Guys, that was Four Nations Forum. Drop your comments below. I know there was a lot of stuff that was controversial here today. So let's just hash it out in the comments. They're going to be there. I'm going to be there. Let's figure it out together. But tune in next time and subscribe, like, comment, all the YouTube stuff. And thanks for watching.